Coming up on American Medicine Today, the FDA recently announced a new variant of COVID is causing up to 20% of all infections. Dr. Salvatore Giorgianni Jr. joins us to discuss whether the Arcturus variant is something we need to worry about. Then, Monica experienced a car accident that left her in terrible pain. Knowing she couldn't afford to slow down her active lifestyle, she sought out the Bonati Spine Institute and is now happily enjoying time with her family pain-free. Finally, we all know the United States can only fall from within, which is a goal some anti-American senators are striving for. We speak to Trevor Loudon, who calls out some of these nefarious politicians. Coming up on American Medicine Today.
Featuring cutting-edge science and medical innovation, touching personal stories of recovery from pain, along with political, social, and healthcare issues plaguing our nation. This is American Medicine Today, brought to you by the Bonati Spine Institute and Alfred Bonati, MD.
Welcome to American Medicine Today. I'm Kimberly Bonati alongside Ethan Youker and world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. Alfred Bonati. So the FDA recently announced that they had yet another COVID variant that's making the rounds, this time causing up to 20% of all new infections. So should we really be concerned? Joining us to discuss is our friend and returning guest, Dr. Sal, Senior Science Advisor to the Men's Health Network. Thank you for joining us.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me back on, Kimberly.
So, Dr. Sal, why don't you tell us about this new variant? And you say it's been around for a while already.
I like the air quotes because that's what it is. It's a new variant. It's been in Europe for quite a while, circulating around Europe. It now has been found in the U.S. And when you look across the spectrum of COVID variants and now subvariants that are circulating around the U.S. and the world, because we are part of that global ecology. The one you're referencing now that CDC and FDA are tracking is, again, a minority variant in the U.S. In some parts of the U.S., it's a little more prominent than other parts, particularly Utah, where they seem to, for some reason or other, probably related to travel and commerce. They have a little bit higher rates than in general. But what still remains the dominant variant in the U.S. is the XBB 1.5 variant, which is a variant of the infamous Omicron. So I know all these numbers, they drive me crazy too, Kimberly. I try to keep up. And every time I turn around, there's another variant knocking on the door.
Yeah.
But I think the most important things for folks to keep their eye on isn't necessarily the variant of the COVID virus, because we're going to see a lot of these. And it's just changing all the time.
So
the thing I watch the most is deaths and hospitalizations.
Do you think that this is really going to be the new flu?
Well, I've had that opinion for quite a while. Mm-hmm. Nothing has changed my view. And it seems to be bearing out, which, I mean, COVID is a novel virus, but it's still a virus. It behaves like flu virus. It behaves like many other viruses. Just happens to be a rather rapidly evolving virus at this point, which we hope will stabilize. So it probably looks like the flu, which has implications on the way that the vaccines are prepared,
right?
And how effective the vaccines are when you get them. So that what we're seeing now with COVID evolving is this whole notion that we have to have updated vaccines so that individuals can have updated vaccination profiles,
right,
to try and catch up to the variant at stake. The reason I say that is right now the recommendations for the fall of 2023 COVID vaccine are to use a monovalent, that's one strain, vaccine based on the XBB 1.5 virus that was the dominant strain 5-6 months ago, when the pharmaceutical companies have to start their formulations and production. You just can't turn the switch on and have millions and hundreds of millions, literally, of doses of something put out just like that. It takes some time. Right. 6 months is kind of quick, but that's the reality.
I'm going to leave you alone with all these numbers because the real thing is I I think we need to talk to the community and tell them something very clear. All these numbers are okay, and all these types of situations that each virus is going to go is Mother Nature, but we do have in natural immunity. And natural immunity is what we need to talk so the people don't get scared that all this amount of virus and things that they are surrounding us, they are not really something that didn't happen before. So the problem right now is everybody is scared because the situation with the coronavirus, I think that was promoted and directed by politics. So I think it's very remarkable the numbers that you are using, but that is something that I don't think the community should know.
The thing that I follow, of course, I look at the numbers because that's what I'm trained to do. Yeah. But what I follow as practical advice is what are the rates of hospitalizations and deaths associated with COVID now? And the death rate from COVID is estimated, and we don't know exactly for sure, at about 80 per day. That is very, very low. And when you look at that in comparison to the death rate of cardiovascular disease, cancers, respiratory illness, diabetes, that is a stunningly low number. So you're right. I think the scientists and the number geeks will look at all of these variants. They'll decide on the best possible formula. And what patients should understand is talk to your doctor, talk to your pharmacist, talk to your nurse practitioner. They know you, they know your community, they know the status of variants in your area, and they can give you the best advice as to what to do next. There is some concern about health passports being issued.
Yes.
And I don't think that's the reality, because we're seeing these things change all the time, and they don't even know what the definition of up to date will look like in the fall. So it's a moving target. The folks with the white coats, the folks you trust in your community, those are the people you need to listen to, because personalized medicine is where it's at.
Well, Dr. Sal, I hope they don't implement these vaccine passports as just a way to control our community.
Right. And don't forget, it's not just going to be a passport about when you got your COVID vaccine. It's going to have a tremendous amount of health data and a tremendous amount of information about your movement throughout the world. And that, I think, there's actually acts in Congress, some legislation in Congress to prohibit that in U.S. citizens. And I hope those take hold. We don't need any more intrusions on our lives.
We certainly don't. Thank you much, Dr. Salvatore Giorgianni Jr., for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
Make sure you stay tuned. Coming up after the break, a story of recovery.
2 neurosurgeons couldn't figure out anything that was wrong with me or what I would need surgery for. Dr. Bonati, without even seeing me, knew I was hurting, knew they could help me. First time I came in here was Monday, and today is Thursday. I've had 2 surgeries and am doing fantastic. I'm still in shock that I can walk. That's all within 4 days.
Visit AskBonati.com. Monica is a registered nurse, wife, and mother from Louisiana.
Well, I live in Alexandria, Louisiana. I have a husband and 4 children, 4 very active boys. I have 3 dogs outside, 1 inside. I have chickens, cats. It's a little small farm. It's a lot to keep up with the house and the property. We have 10 acres here. So it's constant mowing and bush hogging and weed eating.
Due to a serious car accident, Monica was left with neck pain, loss of mobility, and numbness in her fingers for over 20 years.
I had a car accident whenever I was 20 years old. Went through the windshield. It ended up that I had fractured my entire cervical vertebrae. It began as just neck pain. It started on the right side of my neck, went down into my right shoulder, down my right arm, and all the way into the first 3 fingers on my right hand. I was told in the emergency room at the time of the car accident that I would have pain. So I really didn't think a lot of it, and I was trying to deal with it because I was supposed to have pain.
The pain eventually worsened to the point it affected her ability to work, sleep, and enjoy time with her family.
I'm a nurse, a registered nurse, and I was having to give a lot of IV push medications. And of course, your primary tools for that are these first 3 fingers, which I couldn't feel. They were numb and they would tingle a lot. And then, of course, I had pain in my neck and my shoulder. You would think at night laying down that the pain would ease, but it actually was worse lying down. I wasn't sleeping well. Pain keeps your body at a heightened level, so you feel tired all the time. When you're tired, you're easily frustrated, you're grouchy, and having 4 kids, they're always needing something from you. So I guess I was very short with them, angry a lot. Not the most pleasant mother I could have been. I didn't want to sit down and visit with my children because I was constantly having to put heat and massage therapy and everything on my neck. My husband had bought me the little massaging neck pillow with the heat in it. So when I would get in from work, I would sit on the couch and do that and try to meditate and zone out. I just wanted to be by myself because I was in such pain. And of course, when I would lay down at night, the pain would be worse actually. So I didn't want to love on my husband. I was getting to where I was clumsy. I was dropping things. Like I said, I couldn't feel those first 3 fingers at all. I took a lot of Motrin. I couldn't take narcotics being a nurse and trying to go to work. I did do some physical therapy. And of course, the therapist was able to show me some exercises to do at home that would ease the pain. Went to my regular primary physician, and of course he started over with x-rays and everything, and talked to him about injections, which I didn't feel comfortable with, so I chose not to do that. So he recommended that I see a surgeon for a neck fusion surgery.
Not wanting to undergo traditional open back surgery, she started asking around about alternative procedures. That's when a friend recommended the Bonati Spine Institute.
Some friends of ours had had surgery there and was a success. So we decided to Google it, and right away there was a questionnaire. We filled it out. The process on the website was very simple. Being able to mail in the MRI results was awesome because we didn't have to travel twice to go see the doctor and do a consultation and then plan surgery and come back. We sent everything in ahead of time, so it was planned when we went to do surgery, and we were prepared to stay and do what we needed to do. Of course, the pain on the way there was miserable. I couldn't turn my head at all to the right without pain. The left was limited because of the muscle spasms in the right side of my neck.
Upon arriving at the Bonati Spine Institute, Monica received a physical exam, updated MRIs at the on-campus imaging center, and met with Dr. Bonati to discuss her customized surgical plan.
When we went to the Bonati for our initial examination, we had brought our MRIs over there already. They repeated them there and had everything set up for Dr. Bonati when he came in to look at them. And he introduced himself. And he said, "Don't tell me anything about your pain. Let me just examine the scans first." And after he looked at the scans for just a few minutes, he was able to tell me exactly where my pain was, that it started in my neck, went down my shoulder, and affected my first 3 fingers, either on the right or the left side. And I said, "Correct, it was the right side. Yes, sir, that's exactly how it was." It was amazing. It was very comforting that he knew exactly where my problems were without me having to tell him. Immediately, he was concerned about me and my pain and what I needed. It wasn't about his scheduling for the surgery. It was about what was best for us. He was truly compassionate, and he was like a godsend to us.
The exclusive Bonati Spine procedures are performed incrementally using conscious IV sedation, where the patient remains awake and communicating with their surgeon to ensure the source of their pain is eliminated before they leave the operating table.
I was at Bonati for around a week. I did 3 different procedures From the beginning, arriving at the Bonati Institute for the day of surgery, it was very comfortable. And then when they took me into the actual surgery suite, I was awake for the procedure. He would ask me questions as he was doing the surgery. Could I feel this? Could I feel that? And he told me ahead of time that he would have me awake because I would need to answer those questions that would help him during the surgery. And he told me that when he got the bone area shaved down enough that it relieved the pressure on the spinal cord, it would be instant. And I needed to tell him when that occurred. And it was instant. It was like a light switch. I spent years in pain and didn't know that I could be without pain. So it was incredible when it was gone. I could also feel my fingers. Of course, that took, it was better and better as time went by. I guess because the nerve had been, compressed for a while. It needed to regenerate a little bit. So immediately I was able to do what I wanted to do and the pain was gone. Oh, the ride home was smooth. Oh, it made my job much easier because I could feel the syringes again whenever I was pushing the medicine. I didn't have to constantly look at it and worry if I was pushing too fast or too slow. So my job was much easier with the return of the feeling in my fingers.
Monica highly recommends the Bonati Spine Institute to anyone suffering with neck or back pain.
For the person having surgery that might be considering the Bonati Institute, I would tell them that they're very informative, they're very professional, and they make you feel comfortable. And it's worth it for you and for your comfort level and to get rid of the pain that you're living with, to at least go for a consultation. It's been 1.5 years since my surgery, and of course now I feel like a 20-year-old again. I'm able to do anything that I want. I have no pain. I have no loss of motion. I have full range of motion in my neck, my arm. I'm able to feel my fingers again.
Now pain-free, Monica is enjoying work again and spending time with her family.
My small son does football, and it's pretty much 6 days a week. We practice, and then there's games on Saturday. And it's several hours at a time that we're sitting on the bleachers. And of course, if anybody's ever been to a football game, the bleachers are not the most comfortable thing. But I have no problem with any of that now. They have their mom back too. Like my husband said, he has his wife back. And I certainly feel better. So I'm able to do more and enjoy them more.
I think everybody was shocked, like, really? You had surgery today? I had a drain tube. I was at my desk doing payroll for 200 employees, worked till night, got up, went to bed.
Actually, the recovery was great. I really immediately felt the difference. I was able to go back to work within a couple of days.
The progress after each procedure was amazingly good. The recovery all told has been phenomenal.
6 days after surgery, I was back in the gym, slowly but surely working my way back to fighting, back to basically 100% of fighting, so 6 days, and everybody was in awe, like, didn't you just get out of surgery? I'm like, yeah.
First time I came in here was Monday, and today is Thursday. I've had 2 surgeries and am doing fantastic. I'm still in shock that I can walk. That's all within 4 days.
Bonati succeeds where others fail. Welcome back to American Medicine Today. So a new pair of books was just released which profiles 30 currently serving U.S. senators and exposes their ties to anti-American elements, both foreign and domestic, and promises to change the way we view our political elected officials. Joining us now is returning guest Trevor Loudon, author of Security Risk Senators, Parts 1 and 2. Welcome to the program.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. It's a pleasure to be here.
Trevor, we have really a lot to get into, so why don't we start with what made you, a New Zealander, want to write a book about the American political system?
Well, I've written several and made documentaries, but I come from a country that was saved by America in World War II.
Yes.
I wouldn't be alive if American soldiers and sailors hadn't stopped the Japanese at Guadalcanal, Coral Sea and Midway. So we understand in New Zealand, as we understand in Australia and Britain and Canada, that if America goes down, the whole West goes down.
Correct.
So it is vitally important that America is saved, America is restored as a a free, strong constitutional republic. It's the leadership of the West at stake here. So I want to expose the traitors who are bringing America to its knees, because America couldn't be taken from the outside. It has to be destroyed from the inside.
Well, and Trevor, a good point. So break down for us why you split all the corruption into two parts, because I guess part one is Arizona to Massachusetts. Part two is Michigan to Wisconsin, all under the umbrella of security risk senators. Tell us what you found and uncovered enough for 2 books, apparently.
This is just the senators. I have another set coming out on the congresswoman. That'll take 6 books.
Oh, no.
But look, what I've dealt with is basically those, not so much financial corruption. These are people who are in bed with communist China, Iran, Cuba, North Korea, the Communist Party USA, Democratic Socialists of America, or radical Islamic groups. So these are people who shouldn't be able to get any form of background check. They shouldn't be allowed to drive a school bus. But there are no background checks in Congress or the Senate, none. So the Iranians and the Chinese have put their people into the US Senate to open our borders, to give Iran the nuclear weapon, to destroy our energy independence, to indoctrinate our kids, to allow China to basically pillage our economy, steal our secrets, and co-opt our politicians. So I focus on 30 people I regard as traitors currently serving in the US Senate.
We want people to check out your book themselves, but give us a little taste. Who were some of the worst?
What about Tammy Baldwin from Wisconsin? Not normally well known, but she was put in place by Democratic Socialists of America, a Marxist group, but she's also part of the Colombian Support Network. Now, they support the Colombian terrorists who make their money selling cocaine to American kids. They are narco-terrorists. She has actively supported these groups. She has used her position in the US Congress to try and get US military aid cut off to the Colombian government. The current Marxist president of Colombia, Petro, she took him round Washington, D.C. a few years ago and introduced him to a whole bunch of leaders. This is a Maoist terrorist we're talking about. So she is absolutely supporting some of the worst narco-terrorist elements in Latin America, but she's a senator from the Badger State, from the lovely city of Madison, Wisconsin.
And she wasn't recalled.
No idea.
She wasn't recalled. No. There were no repercussions for that.
None whatsoever. Look, Dianne Feinstein, who has worked for the Soviets, the American communists since the 1950s, turned her attention to the Chinese when the Soviet Union fell. She became great friends of Hu Jintao, the president of China, stayed in the house of top Chinese officials in Shanghai, got China into the World Trade Organization, which turned them from a fourth-rate power into a first-rate power that can now threaten the United States. When it was revealed she had a 20-year Chinese spy working in her office while she was chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, she said, "Oh, he's just my driver." He was her office manager. He was her most highly paid staff member, and he was getting Defense Department documents across his desk. Oh. She is still in the Senate. He didn't get punished, and she didn't get punished.
How deep does it go, though? I mean, and why are the rest of us, average citizens, not hearing about any of this and oblivious to all of this corruption? It's disgusting.
Well, because not all the media is like you guys. Most of the media will cover for the left. If a conservative gets a parking ticket, you'll hear all about it. Well, we see this with Trump now. What's Trump done compared to what Biden's done? We know Biden is getting huge bribes from communist China. But that's not the issue right now. The issue is, Trump's infractions or supposed infractions. So the media covers for the left. Look, how many years did it take Eric Swalwell, who was sleeping with a Chinese spy, to be taken off the House Intelligence Committee? His Chinese spy, I have a photograph of his Chinese spy, Christine Fang, with the Chinese consul in San Francisco, and Dianne Feinstein's Chinese spy, Russell Lowe, all cozily together. These things do come out from time to time, but nothing happens because the Republicans are too weak. They don't want to call out their colleagues, and the media won't touch them, and the FBI is completely compromised. You know, Comey, the head of the FBI, said, I used to be a communist. I'm not sure what I am now.
What?
You know, so he's not going to go after these people.
That's such a dangerous game, and this is our government.
Right.
It's insanity.
Well, you know, Trump's intelligence advisor Ratcliffe said 2 years ago, he said the Chinese had compromised so many American congressmen, they can now determine which legislation is passed in our Congress and which isn't. Now, if you think about it from a Chinese point of view, you want to bring America down, would you want to risk a multi-billion-dollar trade war, which you might lose, a multi-trillion-dollar shooting war before you were ready, or would you rather spend a couple of $1 billion buying up, compromising, and blackmailing American congressmen and senators to do your dirty work for you? Which would you rather do?
Well, and the reason everyone and most people should understand why Trump was so feared and continues to be feared is because he's an outsider. You know, he isn't in anyone's pockets. He doesn't need the money. He doesn't
play the game.
He doesn't play the game, and they hate that. Briefly, if you can just summarize what else people can find in the book, and what do you think will happen to the West, to the world in general, if America continues this descent down the drain?
Look, I profile 30 senators, Sherrod Brown from Ohio, or the congressmen from Colorado, senators from Colorado, you know, Illinois, all of the ones you see on TV every night. But if we don't get rid of them, we are heading for a war with China, which we will probably lose because we'll be so weakened militarily, economically, and our leadership will be so compromised, we'll be walking into a major trap. In the second part of the book, I outline how we cleanse these people out, the actual way we get rid of them. So this is critical. People need to get this information out before the next election. We need to get rid of a whole bunch of these people. It has to happen. Otherwise, this country is going to lose to China, and that will not be a pretty sight.
That is a scary thought. Thank you so much, Trevor Loudon, for being on the program.
People can get my stuff at trevorloudon.com.
Thanks, Trevor.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.
Make sure you check out our show next week right here on Newsmax. If you have any comments or questions, contact us at the numbers below. Or you can tweet at Dr. Bonati using the hashtag American Medicine Today or hashtag AMT. We would like to hear from you. Starting September 9th, American Medicine Today will be switching platforms so that we will become more accessible to our audience. Please watch for us on YouTube and Rumble. We appreciate your continued viewership.